Hi everyone. Today I wanted to show you how to use Chromasound Studio with the Chromasound Pro Direct to write music on a Raspberry Pi. As you'll recall, the Chromasound Pro Direct is the Raspberry Pi Hat version of the Chromasound Pro VGM player, which is compatible with Sega Genesis soundtracks. What I have set up here is a Raspberry Pi 5 with the Chromasound Pro Direct attached on top. The Raspberry Pi is running the stock Raspberry Pi OS, and as you can see, it's currently running Chromasound Studio. I also have set up my Arturia MiniLab 3 MIDI keyboard, which is connected to the Raspberry Pi via USB. If you look toward the top of the Chromasound Studio window, you can see that I have my MiniLab 3 keyboard selected as the active MIDI device. I can go to one of my channels, say the first tone generator, and click on it, and now I'm able to play notes on the keyboard through this channel. The sound that you just heard was generated by the Chromasound Pro Direct, that is, the synthesis hardware which is on the device. However, if I add notes to the song and then press play, that sound is being generated by a Chromasound emulator built into Chromasound Studio. If I go into the settings of the program, you can see that I have the program configured for two Chromasounds, where the emulator is responsible for playing back the song in the editor, and the Chromasound Pro Direct is responsible for producing all of the sound that results from input on the MIDI keyboard. The reason there needs to be two Chromasounds is because that's what makes it possible to hear the song playing back and the output of the MIDI keyboard at the same time, which can be important as a part of the songwriting process. It's also possible to switch the roles and have the Chromasound Direct playing the song and have the emulator responding to the keyboard. And the third option is to use two emulators, one for the song and one for the keyboard. However, I find that the best configuration, the configuration that works best on the Raspberry Pi, is this one where the emulator is playing the song and the Chromasound Pro Direct is responding to the keyboard. So I'm going to show you some basic steps to write a song. And so I'll start with a new project. And the first thing that I want to do is add a drum track to the song. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to play the drums on the keyboard, on the MIDI keyboard, and record it into a track. In order to be able to play the drums on the keyboard at the tempo of the song, I need to have a sense of what the tempo is, and for that I'll need a metronome. For technical reasons that I won't get into here, Chromasound Studio doesn't have a built-in metronome. If you want to add a metronome to your song during editing, you have to manually add a metronome track to your song for the duration of the time that you need the metronome. There's two good things about this though. One is that you can choose any sound source to be the metronome. For example, you could make a drum sample of a rim shot and use that as the metronome. I like to use the noise channel type because I typically don't use it in my song, so if I hear it, I'll know that it's the metronome. The second good thing about it is that because the metronome and the song are all part of one song, it's not possible for the metronome track and the song to get out of sync with each other, which is a great thing from a programmer's perspective. So what I'm going to do is go to channel 10, and I'm going to create a track for my noise channel by filling it every 4 steps, which is on the beat. And then I'm going to lower the volume of the noise channel. And then I'm going to add 4 bars of the metronome track to the song. And I'm going to loop those bars. Then if I play the song, you can hear the metronome. Great. Now I have something to play along to when I'm playing the drums that will keep me in time with the rest of the song. So the next step is to create a drum channel that we can play into. And the first thing we have to do actually the first thing we have to do is go into the PCM globals and load a drum sample ROM into the project. You can see that this ROM has 4 drum samples: a bass drum, a snare drum, a hi-hat, and a ride bell. I'm going to change my third tone generator channel into a drum channel. First, I'll rename it, and then I'm going to change the type to PCM. And finally, I'm going to add the drum samples from the sample ROM to this channel. Great. Now, the drum channel is fully configured, but if I try to play the drum pads on my keyboard through this channel, all that we'll hear right now is noise. Let's check it out. The reason for that is because we haven't loaded the drum sample ROM into the Chromasound Pro Direct yet. That normally happens automatically when you go to play back the song. It'll upload the drum sample ROM if it hasn't done so yet, but we are still in editing mode, so we have to do this manually. So to do that, I use the button all the way on the right, the green circle with the up arrow on it. You can see that it's uploading the PCM, and now it's ready. So if I use the pads now, we should hear the drum samples. And so the next thing we need to do is record some drumming to a track. So I'm going to record into pattern 9, and we're going to record into the drum channel. I'm going to go into song playback mode because I want to hear the 4 bars of the metronome while I'm playing. And I'm also going to reduce the tempo down to about 70, which will give me a much more accurate recording on the Raspberry Pi. Now I'll hit record, and when I hit play, it'll go to play the 4 bars. I'm going to let it play the 4 bars so that I can get a sense of the tempo, and then the second time around, when it loops around, I'm going to start playing, and it'll record what I play. All right, let's go. So this is what the recording looks like. Let's listen to what this sounds like with the metronome. You can hear that it generally follows the tempo, but it is a little bit offbeat. So what I do is, the first thing I want to do is get rid of the silence at the beginning of the track. The whole track should be aligned to the start of the measure. So I'm going to select everything and move it over. You can see that these notes are now starting at the very, very beginning. And the next thing I'm going to do is quantize this recording, which is going to align all of the notes to the 16th note. Great, let's listen to it now. Perfect. There are just a few corrections that I want to make. If you look at the velocities of the drums, you can see that there's quite a spread and the velocities, and that some of the velocities, it's hard to see, but they're very low. So there's two things that I'm going to do. First, I'm going to reduce the spread in velocities, and then I'm going to add a base amount of velocity to make sure that the channel as a whole is still loud enough. So I'm going to select everything, right click and go to velocity, and I'm going to scale the velocity by 0.5. And then I'm going to go back to the velocity dialog and add let's add 60. And then there's just two notes here that are still a little bit quiet. I'm going to fix that manually. So let's change this one to be 75. And we'll do the same with this one. Okay, let's go ahead and listen to it now. I'm also going to bring the tempo back up to what it was before, which is 120. Oh, we're just missing one hat. Great. So now that we have a drum track and it is aligned to the beat, we no longer need the metronome. So I'll go ahead and take pattern 10 out of the song, and let's add some chords over the drums. So to do this, I want to add an FM instrument because it's much richer than just the tone generator. So I will go into the FM import FM patches dialog. OPN is the one that we want. And then go into the Chromasound Studio support pack and go into the factory patches. Let's go with DX100, and I'll drag this particular patch bank into the window, and we can see all the patches that are in here. And I'm going to go with Good Vibes. I'm going to send it to channel 1. Now I can see that there's some LFO sensitivity in this channel, in this patch. So let's enable the LFO as well. I'll set it to 6 Hertz. And let's see what that sounds like. All right, let's go ahead and try and record that. I'm going to record into pattern 1 this time. I'm also going to lower the tempo, but it doesn't have to be reduced as much as last time. right, we've got our chords. Let's go ahead and make the same corrections as last time. Remove the silence at the beginning and quantize. And this needs to be adjusted. And let's listen to what we have. Not quite what I wanted. Let's hear it with the drums. That's actually exactly what I wanted. My mistake. Let's hear it with the tempo turned all the way up. All the way up to what it was before, I mean, is what I meant. And that's the basic songwriting process on the Raspberry Pi. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below.